Says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook, but I'm waiting for it to
Okay.
show up.
Let's see if it's here yet.
There it is.
You got it? And there it is. All right. Make sure we get the sound turned down. Share this to a few places. Hello, everybody. Give us a minute. We're just going to share this around a few places. If you don't mind, do the same.
Okay, shared to my page.
Shared to my page.
I don't have a page.
Lawrence, we got to get you a page. All right, let me share it.
He's the only smart one, I guess.
That's probably it. Let me share it there. There, it's on the OCLA. And
Smart one, I guess.
uh-oh, we got the echo again.
It's got to be your fault.
All right. We are good to go. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. It's Uncle Grumpy. Welcome to Grumpy Tonight. It's been quite a while, but we're back. And as you can see, I've got some of the regulars with us and a newbie also. So Lawrence, say hello. Dr. Lawrence Pasternack. Lawrence.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. And of course, everybody knows Norma Sapp. Norma, say hi to everybody. Did you say hi, Norma?
I didn't say hi, but I waved.
Oh, okay. Well, I looked
The
away.
universal language.
That's
No
it.
words.
All right. And our newbie here, Kyle Early. Kyle, welcome to the crew here. Thank you for joining us here tonight. One of the reasons we called to have this show tonight was to talk about some of the stuff that you've been doing and in your veteran outreach and getting involved in some of that. So let's start with, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself, starting with, say, your service, because that's, where all this stems from, and then possibly give us some information or a quick rundown on some of the businesses you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. My name is Kyle Early. I served in the United States Army from 2008 to 2012, combat operations in Mosul, Iraq, and came home and found out very quickly that I was lost. It wasn't a year by the time I got home. I ended up being a homeless drug addict. I had a suicide attempt at that time. I lost my purpose. I lost my mission. I was heavily addicted to opiates. And then after beating that, I dug real deep into natural medicine. And not just CBD, but plants that's been used all over the world in natural medicine. And I worked with a nutraceutical specialist and compounded something that I thought was very powerful. And I knew it gave me quality of life back. So I then started Active Duty RX. That's a supplement company that is an option other than deadly and addicting pharmaceuticals. I made it for me at first, and I knew I had to get it to the market. And even though I'm very military based, I found out very, very quickly that not just veterans suffered from PTSD and depression and anxiety. And I had so many people reaching out to me, mothers that were giving their children my supplements for sexual trauma, domestic abuse survivors, first responders. A lot of people were helped, and I'm very proud of Active Duty RX. And in the same year, I started Battle on the Home Front, which was my veteran outreach program. And I really started doing that, and I wanted to give back more. I wanted to do more at that time. And I first started off bringing groups of veterans in and teaching them how to grow their own medicine, which was hemp at that time in 2018. And Battle on the Home Front's gotten so much bigger since then. I'm so happy about where it's been and where it's come to now. And we're taking veterans to events and building that camaraderie and that brotherhood and that bond again. And we're doing a lot of stuff throughout the community as well. For Christmas, we gave over 20 trees away to veterans families, and also widows of veteran suicide. We continue therapy programs and just try to help our brothers and sisters. And this is the battle on the home front, and that's what that's about. And recently I just started Barrage Coffee, which is a coffee company, and I also have CBD infused coffee in that line for that company. And we're also starting an affiliate program through there to be able to hire veterans for them to make very good money from their house if they want, or if they want to go out and beat the streets and be on the sales team and do it that way. And then I also own Jekyll Investments. It's a strategic advisory company, and I help coach and I mentor veterans to become the CEOs of their own companies. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, when I started watching your videos, I mean, I've known you for a couple of years, but when I started watching your videos, it was over the holidays. I saw you doing the tree giveaway, and that looked like that was going pretty good. And I definitely wanted to get involved there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, absolute beautiful mission. And what's really powerful is the widows, the widows of veteran suicide, and to be able to give those memorial trees out in front of their houses. And I hooked up with some other companies, some lighting companies, and they donated the lights for these memorials for these veterans that took their life either through suicide or pharmaceutical abuse. And to see their looks on their faces is just one of the greatest gifts I can explain.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, veterans are definitely tied very closely to some of the same battles that we fight. You know, in the cannabis community, we suffer from some of the same issues. Veterans have, in great numbers, joined that community recently. What is and this may be a spot, Lawrence may even have some information on this, but do you know what's the current status of the VA and their view of a THC positive test from whatever product that may come from? Is that still a problem? If you test positive for THC, if you're a patient at the Veterans Hospital? Kyle, that was to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Lawrence. I apologize. Yeah, I know. I was about to answer that question. I thought I was waiting on him. I know. I do know that it is an issue that you definitely can't pop hot for marijuana or cannabis, that I call it. But yeah, that's definitely an issue, I still think. And I know that they just passed, and I want to say in the Senate, that active duty soldiers can now use 100% THC free CBD products without repercussion. And back in 2018, I got brought on to Tinker Air Force Base. And as far as I know, until somebody proves me wrong, I was the first cannabis company, if you want to call me that, to have products on a base. And I was brought in by the higher ups at Tinker Air Force Base and actually had a kiosk there and was providing those active duty soldiers at that time my products through Active Duty RX. And about, I think 6 months later, they put out a nationwide memorandum that absolutely no. So shut me down on that. But I'm hoping to get back in there and help my active duty brothers and sisters for sure.
Now you do a show on Facebook also, right? Tell us a little bit about that. And then also, I'd like to hear more about this monthly dinner that you told me about this afternoon after our meeting.
Yeah. So I do a podcast, and it's filmed at the Oklahoma Republican headquarters office. Chairman McLean is a very good friend of mine. He is a fellow brother and a veteran, and he lets me give veterans a voice in Oklahoma. And that's Battle on the Homefront TV on YouTube, and it's also on Podbean podcast. And a lot of what I do on that show is I bring in veteran-based nonprofits, and I talk about and highlight what they're doing. I also bring in just soldiers that have gotten out, that struggle with addiction, with mental health. We break those stigmas and we talk about it. I'm very open about my past, and I think, you know, you have to break that stigma, and mental health is an issue. And I think returning and coming home and losing that mission and that camaraderie is where we get lost. And we just highlight that and talk about it and trade stories on there. And that's the podcast and the show. And then monthly, every last Thursday of every month, I'm very grateful and blessed that Chairman McLean puts a luncheon on for me for Battle on the Home Front every month at the Capitol View building right on Lincoln. It's all catered, free, and you can come in there and, you know, that camaraderie, that brotherhood. We bring in nonprofits to talk about what they're doing, and and give an outlet for all these veterans that just don't know where to go. That was the biggest deal for me as well. Like I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know there was groups out there that their life mission, like me, is to save them and to make them stop killing themselves either through a gun barrel or a pill bottle, and just have that camaraderie and that brotherhood again. It's important.
Okay. Before I bring Lawrence and Norma in with their questions, if they have any, I want to give you this opportunity to talk about that new idea you have that we met about this afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I think 110%, if you wrote a blank check to this country, if you signed on that dotted line and took that oath, and you were willing to go overseas, it doesn't matter if you even left the state, if you wrote that blank check to this country, I don't think you should have to pay state sales tax. I think you paid your taxes. 110%. And I definitely think that with medical marijuana, I think you shouldn't have to pay state sales tax on trying to find an option other than deadly and addicting pharmaceuticals to deal with your mental health that was caused by your service.
I want to address some of the dispensaries out there while he mentions this. I know a lot of the dispensaries are giving veterans discounts, and we talked about this in our meeting today also. And a lot of them just haven't looked into it. It's like any other store, because I've also talked to some representatives about this. I called Representative Fettgetter about this. They should have a booklet that they keep track of everybody. You should have your card that you show. They write all that information down. But even that with the medical marijuana is only going to get you the sales tax reduction. It's not going to get you the 7% excise tax. So you're still paying tax there. So yeah, this is something Kyle and I met about this afternoon. I completely agree. I didn't serve, but I completely agree. And I'm willing to put whatever effort I can into helping make this happen. I think we have enough people who serve that are representatives that we can get some support. And I think we probably have enough people who didn't serve who are willing to support this idea, or at the very least afraid to stand in front of it politically. So for that reason, I think it has some pretty good legs, and I'm real happy to be involved with this.
Well, and we have, and I said these numbers a second ago, I think, but we have 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. We have 30 a day that die from pharmaceutical abuse. If in some way that because of these veterans, they don't feel like what they did mattered, they don't feel important, they don't feel like they're cared about for the service to their country, this great country we live in. And if we can show back our appreciation to them and say, you know what, thank you more than what's being done right now. Show them on the highest level. And I think this is one small little way, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail all the way up the food chain. I want to go after everything for veterans. I think they should be treated with the utmost honor, dignity, and respect that we can give them. The struggles of coming home is so hard. People don't get that. And if this in any way can stop one of my brothers or one of my sisters from dying from a gun or a pill bottle, just because they feel good, like they're important. It's so important. And this is my mission, and I'll fight tooth and nail. And I'm a fighter, so I'm gonna fight. And I'm happy to have you helping me, Grumpy, for sure.
Yeah, it's going to go well. Lawrence, would you have any questions for Kyle yet?
Yeah, a number of questions and thoughts. One is, I think, depending on exactly where we are right now, but I think we're looking at something in the order of about 50% of U.S. personnel in Afghanistan and Iraq and that region are military, and about 50% are contract, right? Are people working for various, Blackwater and all those sorts of organizations. And I know that a lot of them struggle as well when they come back home. So I'm just wondering about your thoughts about, roughly equal numbers of people. Now, of course, they're getting probably paid very well in contrast to somebody in the military. but there are people that are, carrying weapons, that are in combat areas, that are providing, services to the military, that are likewise coming back with PTSD and trauma. Just your encounters with those individuals and your thoughts about their situation.
Well, I think those are definitely two different situations. One of them is taking an oath to defend this country, the Constitution. I think it's definitely different from soldiers and contractors. And a lot of contractors are already prior service. So this is my goal, is to go after my brothers and sisters that wrote that blank check like I did, to protect in this country. So if that answers that question.
Yeah, there is a level of importance that's certainly greater, because the kind of commitment on the part of somebody who's joining the military is different than a contractor. But I just happen to know one contractor who came back from Afghanistan, having been there for a few years, and my guess is he probably struggled with the same kinds of emotional difficulties that a veteran.
I'm sure, and I'm absolutely sure, because without a doubt, I can only imagine. But I can only fight so much, and I know my focus and my aim is for my brothers and sisters that signed that oath like I did.
Yeah, and like you said there at the beginning, they're not making nearly as much money. So for right now, we'll fight for the people who aren't getting paid well.
No, and those contractors can definitely quit whenever they want, and definitely the difference is you are owned by the government when you go into the military. You're not leaving.
Yeah.
But just changing to another issue, I kind of feel like sort of one of my main goals, sort of something that continues to drive me, is that, after the passage of 7088 having the quote unquote most open medical marijuana program in the nation, there's still all these sectors of individuals who can't use cannabis. People that are working in safety sensitive jobs, people in pain management, people who are, seeing physicians at the VA, people who are working for the VA, and so on. So I kind of feel like something that's very important to me is making sure that there's a voice for these people who are left out of the program. And I find it shocking that we have federally legalized CBD. CBD is legal at the federal level. And yet, I have a friend who has a job at the VA. When he's randomly urine tested, they're testing for CBD as well. That people who work for the VA, and I guess military as well, can't use something that is fully legal. What can we do?
You're saying that the VA here is testing for CBD?
Yes, this is what he told me. He started working for the VA about 4 months ago, and he told me that
I've definitely heard that.
And so he works on the medical side, so it might just be that people that are providing medical services are tested more broadly. But nevertheless, in his case, he said that he's prohibited from using both anything related to cannabis, including CBD, in the test for it. So, and as you pointed out, that you had a product line, and that you were presenting this product line at Tinker, and then it all got shut down. So,
well, yeah, and I know in the military, they're testing for Delta 9 and 11. I know people that do the drug tests in the military, and that's what they test for specifically. And I actually know of people that currently work at the VA that take all of my products and pass all their drug tests with no repercussions. So I definitely would like to dig more into who that is and why they're testing him for just CBD.
Yeah, off camera we can talk about it.
I've talked to.
It might not be all personal.
I've talked to different vets all over the state and a few other states. And it seems to be, Lawrence, I've noticed it's kind of like the pain management issue. It seems to be, it depends on the doctor and the VA. It depends on which hospital, what doctor. And I mean, I've heard of some here in Oklahoma that are allowing them to get their card. So, and not canceling their other prescriptions. So I think it's, again, the same. Part of it is the same problem we have that we complain about with this medical program, that we have too many, that, like you just said, that are being denied access. So we definitely got to tweak that a little bit. Norma, have you got any questions for Kyle while we still got him here?
I do. I have one. How many of the people that you've met or had to help were ill because of vaccines?
I don't know of any that were ill because of vaccines, and they might not even known that they were ill from vaccines. That's the issue with that, I think. I think a lot of people don't think about that aspect of it, and they think it's something else. And I'm sure we were highly vaccinated in the military, and you did not have
I
a choice.
know.
The only reason that I got out of, and I'll be honest right now, the anthrax shot. I did not take the anthrax shot, and I fought it tooth and nail. And every time that I was up to go get the anthrax shot, I would go get a tattoo because there was certain rules that you couldn't for that for the anthrax shot. If you're around a pregnant woman, you could not get the anthrax shot. So I moved in with one of my buddies that had a baby on the way, so I didn't have to get the anthrax shot, and it's god awful. And then when you do get it, I remember going to the field, and of course, I was infantry, so we played in the field a lot and in the mud and all that good stuff. And I remember guys taking off their anthrax shot, and I mean, it was literally a ball of pus, and it scars your body horribly, and it's about the size of a quarter if y'all don't know. But very, very bad deal, and I just absolutely refuse. So if I get anthrax, I'm just SOL, I guess. I don't know.
I love the tattoo excuse. That's a good one. That sounds like something I'd do for sure. Okay.
I've heard of people that are totally forever disabled because of that anthrax shot, especially, but all the vaccines have a potential for injury. And once you've injured your immune system, then you are open to these things like PTSD.
I 100% believe that. 100%.
All right, Kyle, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to thank everybody. If you're watching this, I want to thank you for believing in me, believing in Battle on the Home Front, supporting us, being patriots. And y'all will, I promise y'all will see me up at the Capitol, because I'm going to fight tooth and nail.
Okay.
We'll be there to help you.
Yes, we will. All right. Well, we're going to stay on here, but we're going to let Kyle go. I've got to talk to Lawrence and Norma about some bills they're running. Kyle, you and I will probably speak tomorrow. Until then, have a good night, and thanks for coming on.
God bless.
Okay. Norma, Lawrence, you're both, well, Lawrence, you anyway, you've been working on a bill. Kyle, you'll have to exit out from your end.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Lawrence, you've been working on something since the beginning of the program, and we've had extreme difficulty in getting traction. And now it seems to be getting some traction. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Many people recognize that the value of cannabis extends beyond THC and extends also beyond cannabinoids. People are realizing the value of terpenes, and there's a so-called entourage effect where various combinations have benefits, and people respond very differently to different combinations. And people respond very differently to THC and so on. And some medical indications, you're better off with CBD versus THC. You know, we're all aware that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. As well as that, you know, there are various cannabinoids and various terpenes that people have adverse reactions to. Myrcene, for instance, some people are allergic to myrcene. Furthermore, some people have cardiovascular episodes with THC. THC is a stimulant, right? So people rarely recognize this, but THC increases your heart rate, increases respiration, increases neuronal activity in the right hemisphere. And so just depending upon the individual, that could have some negative consequences if you have a heart condition, for instance. So I just always thought that a problem with using cannabis as medicine is that if you get, say, flower or you get some sort of product, you're kind of forced into taking whatever is contained within that. So that, if you want to have flower, then there may be 15 different noticeable terpenes, and there's, in addition to THC, various cannabinoids, and you just don't have the level of control you do when it comes to medicine. If you wanted to go to a pharmacy and get some medicine, you're not forced. If you were to go and say you wanted Benadryl, you're not forced to take acetaminophen with it, right? You could either take it in combination or not. So that's sort of the basic context that I think that we should be able to be very specific. People are distilling out individual cannabinoids with individual terpenes. And so why couldn't it be the case that we have something like compounding dispensaries? So pharmacies, they're compounding pharmacies where they can make individual medication for you. Why couldn't we have dispensaries that do the same? So imagine this situation. Imagine a dispensary has a contract with some processing company who provides them with a set of basically a package of oils, some THC oil, some CBD, some CBG, some CBN, various terpenes, and so on. And then you as a patient could go in and you'd say you want a 3-to-1 CBD to THC mixture with linalool in it or whatever. You can get exactly the medicine you want. You're not forced into taking terpenes that you don't want. If you're looking for something very specific right now in the existing marketplace, how many different dispensaries do you have to go to? Are you just going to give up if you're looking for something like a 4-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ratio or whatever it is? So a dispensary in theory could basically compound an individual tincture or vape cartridge for you with the specific ratios of cannabinoids and terpenes that you want. And other states do this. Arizona, just for instance, there's one company that provides this service at various dispensaries. So as it is right now, dispensaries can't do this. But to help people, who are sensitive to one or another cannabinoid or terpene, and people who are looking to minimize THC and optimize other cannabinoids and so on, I really want to find a way to make this possible. And so I have raised this issue a number of times with lawmakers. I got John Echols' support last year, but then of course COVID hit. I talked to Representative Fettgetter this year, and he's on board with it. Talked to Ron Durbin as well, and he's on board with it. And so basically at this point, what we need, and talk to some processors who like the idea as well. So at this point, what we need to do is we need to come up with language. We need to basically consider some of the details having to do with what a dispensary maybe can and can't do, whether they can add, for instance, you may not want to say that they can add in foodstuffs, flavorings, and so on. You have to consider issues about storage, etc. So you open up this jar of cannabinoids, you mix them together, you have some left in the jars that you get. How do you store them? You have to store them at room temperature, in the dark, at a lower temperature, and so on. Some of that could be handled at the regulatory level, but my goal basically is to have in statute something that will allow for effectively what we can call compounding dispensaries.
I think that's got real legs too. I know that one of the senators the last year, I think it was, or the year before that, was trying to run a bill to allow pharmacies to become dispensaries as soon as the federal government made a change. So again, setting themselves up to get a head start on that, because they'd be willing to do that. I mean, if Walgreens starts selling our cannabis, no one's going to be upset about them trying to be unique with the terpenes and in each specific order. So our dispensaries should have the same rights here.
And by the way, for over 20 years in Canada, that's how cannabis was dispensed in Canada. You would go to the large national chain in Canada is called Shoppers Drug Mart. It's like basically CVS or Walgreens here. So, Canada's had medical marijuana for over 20 years, and you as a patient would go to your local pharmacy and you would buy your cannabis at your pharmacy. So we're decades behind.
I got to be honest. If I could go to a dispensary and tell them exactly what I wanted in a vape cartridge or in a tincture, I might buy considerably more of them than I do, because I almost never get those things. Because again,
Yeah,
they're rarely are they anything more. The tinctures are usually just THC with something, some terpenes dumped back in it, but nobody really knows what. And the vape cartridges, same thing. I've been shopping for a dispensary, and I see cartridges that wholesalers are showing me all the time, and like one said green crack. We all know that's a strain of cannabis. And so I asked, well, is that green crack? And they said, oh, it's terpene infused. Well, are they green crack terpenes? Well, we don't know. So they didn't know. They just stuck a sticker
mhm.
on it. So they got a half of them that say green crack, and the other half that say strawberry or cherry or whatever, because it's it's not what we're supposed to be shopping for as medicine,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah.
This is a
Let
great
me give
idea.
you another example. Let me give you another example. ACDC. ACDC is a cannabis strain that's about 20-1 CBD to THC. One time I went into a dispensary and I saw an ACDC. I saw a ACDC vape. And so I asked them what, the CBD THC ratios were. And so they said, well, he looked it up on a computer and like typed in ACDC. And so he told me that it was 20-1 CBD to THC. And then I look on the package, and of course that's not the case. So there's basically no correlation sometimes between a well-known strain and what actually is in that package. And then when they come up with whatever terpene combinations, they're synthetic terpenes, or sometimes they're cannabis derived terpenes. But when they make a vape cartridge, it's not as if the process by which they make that vape cartridge carries with it the terpenes that are originally in the flower. They're usually extracted out. It's usually just the distillates that get recombined, and then they add in terpenes too. And we don't even know what terpenes, like, we state regulations require that on labels. It's supposed to tell you what the terpene potencies are. And I believe the intention was so that every individual terpene is labeled with its potency. Instead, what do we get? We get a label that says 17% terpenes. We don't know what the terpenes are. So we're still 2.5 years later. 2.5 years later, we still don't have proper labeling. We still don't know what is in this that we're
Now,
taking.
before
It's
we
like
get,
going to a pharmacy.
go ahead, finish.
It's like going to a pharmacy and saying, I want some medicine for my cold, and then the pharmacist pulling out a jar that says 43% medicine. Here you go. That's where we are
Okay.
in our program.
And before we get too many hate emails, let me say that there is also several different brands of vape cartridges out there that are made from things like live rosin and other stuff that actually do carry the terpenes
Yes.
from the plant to all the way along with the THC to the vape cartridges. The majority, though, are, as Lawrence is speaking of here. And again, I've been shopping for them, so I have to agree. About 75, 85% are THC distillate with terpenes put back in, and nobody can tell you what. One of the questions I found that seems to throw them all for a real loop is the what's the wattage for the cartridge? They want to sell you a battery and a cartridge. Well, some of the batteries are adjustable. If you turn them up too high, depending on the cartridge, you can burn it out. But nobody can tell you, or almost nobody can tell you, what that is, because we're just seeing how fast we can sell stuff, unfortunately. Okay. Lawrence, I think that's a great idea. Norma, what do you think about that, about his idea here?
I love the idea. I hope it works out that we can have compounding pharmacists join us in this, because I think they will dig into it more precisely. And I hate the idea of not knowing is it synthetic or is it real? And it's such a crapshoot out there.
Yeah, well, again, when I've been looking at these products, that's what I determine whether we want to look at those for the rec market that we have to fill. Because if you don't fulfill that rec need right now, then you're not going to stay in business. and what's going to fulfill that medical need. And the products are pretty cut and dry as to what's what, this being one of the biggest distinguishing factors, in my opinion. Okay,
Yeah,
Norma, go ahead, Lawrence.
this one other application of what I'm describing. I just want to give you one more application that's sort of a dollar and cents one. So if you were to go to a dispensary and buy yourself an edible like a gummy, you'll usually be paying around $1.50 all the way up to about $4 for one individual gummy, right? So you might get a package of 10, right, or a package of 15 gummies for $30 or $40, right? The price for a gummy is just astronomical. People who would use it on a daily basis are paying exorbitant amounts of money, right? $3, $4, $5 for one gummy at a time. Maybe you take two, right? And it just gets unbelievably expensive. People, it strikes me as sort of surprising that people aren't doing the following. Right now, you could do this. You can go to a dispensary that sells tinctures, right? That sells one-to-one CBD to THC tinctures or straight THC tinctures. You could buy yourself a THC tincture and use the dropper to measure out how much THC you want. And it'll cost you pennies by comparison. If you get it in a gummy, basically, you know, I just ate some gummies. I threw away the package, like regular gummies, you know, from Sam's Club. I just ate some gummies, right?
Yeah. We don't see the package. No, you don't need to go looking. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, like we didn't see you eat the gummies. We don't know they came from that package.
That's true. All right. So these gummies here, right? It's like a package of 10 regular gummies. I'm blurring now, aren't I?
Yeah, your screen just got really blurry. I don't know what you did.
Yeah. So you buy a package of 10 gummies, right? Like this kind of stuff from Sam's Club for 25 cents, right? Each gummy is going to cost you 2.5 cents, but you add THC in it, and it goes from 2.5 cents up to $2.50. It's absurd. But if you were to get your own tincture, right? You get yourself a $50 bottle of tincture, right? You can get out of that tincture between 50 and 100 doses, right? You could bring it down to under $1, right? You get a larger bottle, you can get it even cheaper. There's tincture bottles that are $25 and you can get about 60 doses of it. So if somebody is price conscious and they prefer an edible as opposed to smoking or vaping, the efficient solution is to use a tincture. And so correlated to this idea that I have here about allowing people to specify exactly what CBD and what cannabinoid and terpene ratios they want, if we were to normalize the use of tinctures, then people could cut the cost for the edibles by anywhere from 50% to 500%. Yeah.
So someone needs to come up with like a little Starbucks type idea. You know, the baristas can whip those coffees together pretty quick. You know, somebody with a nice setup to make tinctures, that could be a pretty popular store.
Yeah, there's something called a variable pipette. Maybe I should have brought it up. You can buy them for about $30 on Amazon, and there's a little dial on it. And so if you wanted a 3-to-1 ratio, you dial it up to 3, you pulled your oil, then you dial it up to 1, you pull your oil, and you got your 3-to-1 ratio. It's basically as simple as that.
Okay. Well,
Lawrence, can I ask you a question about that? Some of the reason that people use gummies is because of the way it digests and hits your system and works a different length of time. If you were taking only tincture, isn't that available immediately?
So most people, I think, want their edible to be relatively fast acting. They don't want to have to wait 45 minutes or an hour and a half.
Okay.
And so usually the shorter the time is the better. Now, most of the time when you're talking about a gummy, right? All you're talking about is corn syrup, gelatin, right? The candy stuff. You're not talking about anything that's going to help with regards to cannabis. But nevertheless, if you had something that was a lipid in it, like, coconut oil, which you could mix in with a tincture, right? Or, the MCT oil is basically like a coconut oil. then
Okay.
that would help with absorption. But then as well as that, there's something called a surfactant. And so that's kind of like a soap, basically. It breaks down oils. So there are certain brands, more sophisticated brands from other states that have now come here that include both lipids and surfactants. And by adding those two together with cannabis, then you substantially increase the rate of absorption. So in theory, right, you could have edibles that are faster acting than a plain ordinary tincture. But at the same time, if your tincture is MCT oil in it, right, then you have your lipids in it. And then a dispensary, right, a compounding dispensary, in theory, could add a surfactant as well to do exactly the same thing as the edible. So
Okay.
you can duplicate the edible in the tincture, right, for far less.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Well, we all learned something tonight. Well, we
Yeah.
didn't, Lawrence, you taught us, but thank you. Okay, while we're still here, Norma, I want to get to you. Lawrence, don't go anywhere. Norma, you have been working in the industry, something I haven't been doing since the start of this, mostly doing some trimming jobs. And I want to talk about that. I hear a lot about that. I hear a lot of people that do that. And then again, shopping for a dispensary recently that I've been doing, I see a lot of cannabis, some trimmed with these auto trimmers and some hand trimmed. And I got to tell you, I'm not real keen on this auto trim stuff. So I'm thrilled that you're working on a trim crew. And I was hoping you could tell everybody, because not everybody understands what actual hard work is involved with that. They think, oh, cool, I'm going to go trim weed. Well, I did that for a month out in California a few years ago, and it'll kill you. It will work you to death. So tell us what you've been doing.
Right now I've worked for 3 different people. The prices vary. And yes, I get blisters. There are some new products, new scissors coming out that are better than others, and some are anodized, which helps with sticking together because right away, I mean, like, it depends on the cannabis, of course, but one bud, some of it, and you've got to clean your scissors because it's all stuck together. And then it really hurts your hand to try to pull them apart every time. It slows you down. Um, I've enjoyed it. Prices are different for different jobs, and the size of the bud matters. That article on the Chinese labor that's being exploited, they said in there that they were offering to pay $70 a pound to those individuals that are working there. And God, it takes all day to make a pound if you're good at it. So that's just slave labor. But anyway, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed meeting a lot of people. I guess I'm pretty good at it if I can knock out a pound. Well, I take that back. Depends on the grow and the size of the bud. When it's tiny, tiny bud, it takes a lot longer to put it together, and to get it ready for your uh, finished product. And so you may not get in a pound in an 8-hour period. But if it's fairly sized buds and normal cannabis, then once you get good, you can knock out a pound in a day. Um, Prices are, like I said, $70 a pound up to $200 a pound, depending on the grower. And there's just all kinds of conditions. That's the thing I've found out that you have to pay attention to. You need to ask questions. Should I bring my own scissors? Should I bring my own food and water? Is there going to be bathrooms available? you know,
Yeah, and I
Stuff
did this
like
out,
that.
yeah, I did this out in California. So I know exactly what you're talking about. People think it's all sunshine and roses. It's about as far from sunshine and roses as you can get.
Yeah, it's hard work.
It's sitting in fold out chairs in a garage, usually.
Ooh,
That's what we were doing anyway. For
the
hours
metal ones.
trimming. Yes.
Ooh,
Trimming. I mean, cold outside, 45
cold.
degrees outside, and you're in the garage. I think one time we were at someone's grow where they let us sit inside their house. And that was like, we were spoiled. That's where I learned I got fast enough to do a pound in 6 hours. So that was when I started making some good money at it. Out there, they call them trimmigrants. So I guess we're having an issue with trimmigrants here now in Oklahoma.
Right.
The story with like you were just saying, the Chinese labor. I was thinking about having Mark Woodward on soon and asking him about that. See what the
Oh
OB.
yeah, I need to call him and find out what he knows about the whole thing too. I feel so sad for those people. The one case, an article I read, the trimmers were hired for $70 a pound, and they're sleeping in the these plastic grow houses. Right? Can't be warm out there and uncomfortable on the ground. So there's things you have to ask. Are they going to feed me? Are they going to have water available? These are all things you got to ask. And I learned recently that not all growers do it the same. The one I've been working at recently leaves a bud on the whole stalk, and you have to take that bud off the stalk. And so that's half of your time. You're not getting paid for that. You're only getting paid for the poundage you produce. But most already have it in a bag. It's weighed up. I think this is the more secure way for them so that they don't have to watch for stealing. There are people that will put stuff in their pockets. So if you hand a certain weight of bag to that person, when they get done trimming it, in this hand they've got the trim, in this hand they've got their finished bud, should weigh about the same as the bag that you handed them. And so giving somebody the whole plant and telling them to clean the whole thing and throw away the stalk, that's just probably not a good way to handle it.
Well, let me tell you why. I'll make a little, I may upset a few people here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let me tell you a little bit why this trimming thing is such an issue. Again, visiting a lot of grows, we've all been doing that since the beginning of the program, but lately I've been visiting a lot more. So I go to another big, nice facility, indoor grow, beautiful place. They've spent millions doing this. It's all hydroponic. They've got everything right. They've got super bright lights. I mean, it's a beautiful place. And I won't say who it is. It doesn't matter. I've seen this happen at more than one place. And I watch as they're running everything through the trim machine, and the people are bagging everything up. And they're running it through a machine, and I've seen others that have these too. It's a tumbler that hits it with CO2 and freezes it, and then it tumbles and breaks off all the leaves. Well, it also takes off an enormous amount of the trichomes, the keef.
Yep.
They had a pound of keef there. They weren't even sure what they were going to do with yet, and knew it was worth hundreds of dollars, or if not thousands. And that's all fine and good if that that weed, the cannabis at the end, if they're going to have that tested and then sell that, well, then that's what I'm buying. But no, the same person brings out 6 bags from the same room that the stuff came out, and I watched it come out, that went to be trimmed. He brought stuff out the same way over to show me and said, here, smell this. This is what I'm taking to have tested. So what he was having tested wasn't being flash frozen and tumbled.
Oh my.
So what he's selling and what he's having tested are not the same product. And this is another one of those top brands in the state. So, and it's unfortunate that we're seeing so much stuff like that. That's why trimming is so important to me, and why
it is. The best growers hire actual humans to do the trimming, because like you said, you lose so much in those tumblers. And you can tell us, you probably know better than I do. I don't go into a lot of dispensaries. Tell us how the average consumer can tell if it's been hand trimmed or if it's been tossed around in one of those cages.
Usually by crow's feet. Crow's feet are the branches that come at the bottom of a bud. It's a leaf that was sticking out by the bud, and it looks like crow's feet. And hand trimmers will trim those off. That's how you make the bud look pretty. And that's what keeps it from just looking like it was all just shaved off at the end.
Right.
Unless you roll through one of those tumblers, all the leaves are the same height as the bud. It's just been shaved off at the end. And then
you know who makes those machines?
What's that?
You know who makes those machines?
No, I
Those
don't.
auto trimming machines?
No, I don't.
Dominion.
No.
I don't know if he's telling the truth here or not. With Lawrence, there's no telling. No telling. We're just going to move on from that one. Okay. All right, folks. Well, let's see. We've been going at this for a while now. My clock thing isn't working, but I'm betting we've been going this about an hour.
55 minutes.
Then we're great. We're right on time. Or like I like to say, Pooh Bear time. I'm 15 minutes late for everything. And, you know, if you're a Pooh Bear fan, Winnie the Pooh, you know, that's Pooh Bear time. Anyway, enough of that. We're going to let everybody go here, I think. We're about done. I'm acting silly, so we better go. Thank you both for joining me again for another great night. We will start doing this again on a regular basis. Lawrence, I'd like you to reach out to the Pain Society. I want everybody to know we want some people from the Pain Society to come on here and talk about the opioid problem and how it's related to cannabis. I saw some people post on a post I made a few days ago. They'd like to see some information on children and autism and cannabis. Lawrence, maybe you can help us find some people good in that, knowledgeable in that area. And we can
Can I just interject here, because I just really want to get this word up, because it infuriates me.
Okay.
So the DEA,
Dominion?
the
Is this
DEA,
about Dominion? No, it's not.
No.
Okay. All right. Go ahead then.
The DEA is, in my opinion, violating federal law by telling pain management doctors either that their patients cannot use cannabis, or that if they do use cannabis, then they have to lower their opioid dose. There's something called the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment in federal law that prohibits the DEA from using their resources to interfere with medical marijuana programs, state programs, including the use of cannabis. And if the DEA agent is telling the doctor what they can and can't do with regards to patient cannabis use, that's violating federal law, and that's going on. Everybody needs to be aware of this, and they need to make a stink of it, and we need to stop it, and we need to get the government out of our healthcare.
We need to.
I actually saw something on that tonight, Lawrence. The Don't Punish Pain Rally page. They have, I think, 2 bills, a Senate bill and a House bill for this legislative session. I don't have a number yet, and it gives a liability. They do not have to accept liability if you have a cannabis patient that you prescribe to. So that will help the doctors be less afraid to mix the two.
Lawrence.
Yeah, I actually was helping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually helping with one of the Senate bills.
Okay.
But that one doesn't refer to cannabis, so please remember the one that does. 2612. I wrote the physician protections in 2612, which explicitly protects physicians who prescribe opioids to people who have who use cannabis. But anyhow, this is a big topic for another time.
And it's something we need to get into more on this show. We need to talk about with everybody. This is a big problem. You know, we're still hearing from the same people for the same reasons. People are still being denied.
Right.
So as long as people are being denied access, our work continues. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. This has been fun. I'm looking forward to doing this a bunch more. It's going to be a good year. I'm having neck surgery in a few weeks. So I'm not sure how the beginning of the session is going to start. I may be in a brace up at the Capitol. I don't know, but it's going to be fun, and we'll go.
What about your beard?
What's that?
What about your beard?
Well, I still have the neck brace from a previous surgery, because again, I've had five surgeries on my neck already. So I put the brace on the other day because my neck was hurting so bad. Tried to figure out, would the beard go under? Would the beard go out? Because it's a big, hard plastic brace that goes, you know, it's pretty good size, and you can't move. It makes you stay still. And I remember shaving it pretty low one time for my surgery, and that just made the whiskers poke me. So I think it's either I have to leave it long or I have to shave. What do you guys think? Everybody tell me what you think. Should I
braid it?
I can tell you that I've only shaved it, other than when I was a restaurant manager. I think I've only shaved it like 2 or 3 times completely off. And I shave one time. I don't shave for a month. I shave and then it grows back. But I'll be wearing the brace for like, 6 weeks. So
Wow.
I'll look considerably younger. Nobody will know who I am.
I'll braid it for you.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll keep the beard. We'll see what everybody says. We'll take a vote. All right, guys. That's it. I'm having too much fun. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We will come back next Monday. I'm not sure with what yet, but we've got a few good topics we're going to jump into. So I will talk to both of you guys later. I'm going to close this out here. Until next time, folks, stay grumpy. I'll see you on the road.